Welcome back to the Sports by Schmucks podcast, the Emmett Smith edition, because we're at number 22. So, number 22 in the program, number 1 in your hearts. So, today we're joined by Kieran and Sean.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, good roll call, everybody. And because Kieran's here, we're actually going to talk about some footy.
So I will see you in 20 minutes.
Let's give it 15.
Feel free to jump in, Sean.
Yeah, feel free to jump on. So, Kieran, the Champions League, down to the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
Atletico Madrid. Could you be more excited, or you couldn't be more excited?
I couldn't be. I'm very excited.
Well, you'd be more excited if Man U was in there, wouldn't you?
I would, but I would also probably enjoy it less because I would be a nervous wreck.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So we got Atletico Madrid versus Chelsea and Real Madrid versus fucking German.
Bayern Munich.
Yeah. I think that was the first big curse we've dropped on here. So.
You at least, maybe.
Yeah, at least me.
I think I'm still curse-free so far.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's at least something. So, I guess one thing to talk about here is we were kind of talking about it as we were BBMing during the Man U games. Was that now there's only one English team left, and the UEFA president, as you were telling me, apparently has a bias against English teams.
Unofficially, yeah. I guess
unofficially,
so.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I think Sean dropped his mic or put it down or something and killed everyone. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Not yet.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of like rumors and speculation going around that Michel Platini, who's the UEFA president, has sort of this bias against English clubs. I think this kind of came out a few years ago when 3 of the last 4 teams in the tournament were English clubs, and I think that was actually the year that United beat Chelsea in the final, so it would have been 2008, I think.
Okay.
Anyhow, so it kind of came out then, and then it's I guess there's always been these sort of hints, not necessarily hints, but speculation that there's bias involved against English teams, or that UEFA favors one team, Barcelona or Real Madrid, over some of the other teams. But it's just speculation. There's nothing really substantial, I would say. So how would if this is actually something that's true, which again complete speculation, how would this affect, say, Chelsea's chances, or would a Chelsea conspiracy theorist, how would they think it affected their chances? Conspiracy theorist would need not look further than a few years ago when they lost their semi-final match to Barcelona, largely, I would say, because of the referee, Tom Henning Overbo from Norway, and that was just a complete farce. But that's what the conspiracy theorists would say, and they would say that they'll probably be watching the officiating in this match with a lot of scrutiny. So,
well, first of all, I'm just kind of flabbergasted you pulled that name out of the blue.
Yeah,
that's very well done.
Yeah, thanks. I remember it specifically because despite actually not liking Chelsea at all, I specifically remember that match, and I was just outraged at the officiating. But that's the point.
So we'll stick with this Atletico-Chelsea match because there's the interesting story with the keeper that Chelsea has loaned to Atletico and some conditions in the contract.
Yeah, so basically Thibaut Courtois, who's been on loan at Atletico for I think the last 2 seasons now, he's been there for quite a while, and he's established himself as a top class goalkeeper. He's very, very good. He's still pretty young as well. He's actually been loaned to Atletico from Chelsea. Now, usually in domestic leagues, there's normally a clause in the loan deal that says that loanees can't play against their parent clubs due to various reasons, conflict of interest and all that kind of good stuff. Now, there's kind of two issues here. So Chelsea are claiming that there is a clause in Courtois' loan deal that says that he can't play against Chelsea because it's his parent club. But Atletico, and I think I can't remember who, but some UEFA official as well said that wasn't the case. So they're trying to sort out whether or not he can actually play in the game. In the leg, I should say. Coming up, so that'll be interesting to see as well. Because if he's not able to play, I think that's going to be a huge blow for Atletico, because he's their first choice goalie, and he's very good.
So off just your first-hand knowledge, is there any precedent for this based on just in previous Champions Leagues or Europa Leagues or any of the other international or European competitions?
I haven't really looked into it too in-depthly. I would say that there definitely is probably some precedent in terms of loanees playing against or not being able to play against their former teams. I think it still applies in UEFA competitions as well. I don't see why the rules wouldn't necessarily apply to Courtois in this case. The only thing I can think of would be because it's an extended loan period where he's actually spent longer than a season. I think it's actually been over 2 seasons now at the club. That could be some sort of loophole. I'm not entirely sure. It'll be an interesting case for sure to see what the final ruling is.
So if you're in whoever's the deciding body, I guess would probably be whoever that would be. What would your decision be?
Off the top of my head, I mean, before I had even heard of this issue coming up, I mean, when I saw the tie, the first thing I thought of was Courtois not going to play. So, I would say that my knee-jerk reaction is that he won't play. And Atletico, I think, are kind of going about trying to find some sort of legal loophole to have him able to play in the tie. So, it's a pretty standard procedure when a player goes out on loan. He doesn't play against his parent club. There's usually, like I said, clauses in the contract that say that. If not, it's usually some kind of gentleman's agreement, but I don't think that would necessarily apply in Champions League. But
especially the Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
So you kind of said it before that Atletico would be in trouble without him. If he's not in the lineup, what is their chance to beat Chelsea?
Very good, still.
Still very good? Okay.
Yeah. Atletico are an excellent side. They're great in La Liga. They managed to get by Barcelona in the last tie, which obviously is no easy feat. Even with a depleted Barcelona side, I mean, they're still an excellent team. I would say that if Courtois doesn't play, it's going to be a blow for them, but it's definitely not insurmountable. I would say more pertinently is that Diego Costa didn't play against Barcelona in the last match of that tie. He did play in the weekend, and he did score, so that's good news for them. He's been kind of off and on the last month or so with injuries. If he plays against Chelsea, I don't see them. I definitely see them being able to beat Chelsea.
All right, so we'll jump to. So you have Atletico over Chelsea essentially in this first matchup.
Yep.
We'll go to the second one, the second matchup with probably two of the best teams in Europe in what would be a lot of people's opinion.
I would agree with that as well. Yeah.
And with Madrid and Bayern going at it. So I mean, we just saw Real Madrid with their Copa del Rey championship, the Copa del Rey win, I should say, over Barcelona, and Gareth Bale's ridiculous goal.
Yeah.
But Bayern, as we both watched, and I'm sure you commiserated in Manchester United's loss to them. What speaks to you about this matchup in particular?
It's going to be just a great match. It's going to be a barn burner, this whole tie. It's like I said. I mean, you've got two of the best teams in the world. I would say. I mean, in my opinion, probably the two best teams in Europe right now. You've got superstars on either side of the field. It's going to be a really, really good match. Two offensive teams as well. I mean, they're both teams that like to go at it. I mean, unlike Madrid when they played under Mourinho, Ancelotti has a very attacking style with both Bale and Ronaldo playing on the field at the same time. It's going to be interesting.
So what? I know there's just kind of too many, but what would be the one matchup to watch in this I guess the two games that make up the semifinal or the semifinal?
Ooh, good question.
If you had to pick one,
I would
or maybe
say
even two.
I would say it'll be interesting to watch tactically how Bayern Munich deploys their left and right backs. So Alaba on the left and could either be Rafinha or Philipp Lahm on the right. When they played against United in the second leg, they played very narrowly, where basically they had only one holding midfielder instead of two, and then they had the right and left backs collapsing in to support Cruz in the midfield. But I think against Real Madrid, who play a lot more attacking than United do, especially down the flanks, it's going to be interesting to see how they're deployed against Bale and Ronaldo. They're both adept defenders. Lahm is probably, Guardiola's come out and said he's the smartest player he's ever coached, tactically anyway. So that'll be the key matchup for me. I think it's going to be the Bayern Munich fullbacks against Bale and Ronaldo.
Okay, so I guess we'll just get down to brass tacks here. Who wins this matchup? Or in your opinion, or is it too close to call?
No, I think Bayern Munich win. I think they're a very solid overall team. I also think that Real Madrid, I think in midfield, with Schweinsteiger back, Bayern should be able to boss possession and kind of control the game. Real is going to be really quick on the counter, but I think overall Bayern are too good, and they've been too good this season, I think, not to win this match.
Now, before you said we kind of both agreed that these are the two best teams in Europe, if not the world. Mm-hmm. Do you see, if it goes the way you think, that it's going to be Bayern Atletico, do you see Bayern losing the Champions League final?
I would be very surprised.
Okay.
I mean, the big thing, obviously, that you have to take into consideration, which happened to Bayern 2 seasons ago when they played Chelsea in Munich. Everybody thought Bayern were going to run all over them, and then Chelsea obviously ended up winning. Biggest difference in the final is that it's only 1 game versus 2. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I mean, anything can happen, but again, my money would be on Bayern if the ties go as I predicted.
All right, well, that's some enlightening talk about the Champions League. It's something that I wouldn't be able to do on my own, so that's nice. I guess we'll be looking forward to hearing more from you when it comes down to the World Cup, because that's less than 2 months away now.
Yeah, no, I'm giddy with anticipation, and I'll be working on a little bit of a preview blog for that. So
do you have any specific rooting interest?
Not really. Scotland's not in it, so I'm decidedly neutral. I think for the World Cup, I would prefer to not see Spain win. Not just because they won the last one, but I'm not overly fond of the style of football that they play. But other than that, I'm just hoping for a good matchup, and hopefully compared to South Africa, the World Cup won't be overshadowed by vuvuzelas and a ball that defied the laws of physics. So,
well, this one might be overshadowed by workers who've died building the arenas, or stadiums, I should say. But hey,
and political protests. But hey,
to each their own.
At least it won't take away from the game.
Exactly. So, Sean, what are your feelings on the Champions League?
It is wonderful.
That's exactly what I wanted. So now that Sean's back here, we'll jump into some North American sports now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you guys want to start with, the NBA or the NHL playoffs?
Well, the NBA. Well, I guess hockey it is.
Hockey it is. So as I'm watching this right now, since we're recording at night on Friday night because we're so popular.
It's Good Friday. There's nothing open.
Exactly. Yeah. The party animals are out. As we're looking at this now, Montreal is currently tied with Tampa 10 minutes into the first. Detroit and Boston are set to start Game 1 of their series in the next 3 or so minutes. Well, probably about 10 minutes because of puck drop and all of that stuff, with a little bit of pregame and everything like that.
Festivities. Exactly.
If I had to go off the top right now, I'd say the best game of the playoffs is, I think it's pretty unanimous to say, it was the St. Louis-Chicago game from last night.
Can't argue that.
No. Okay.
Or you could argue it's the Colorado game. That was a pretty solid game.
That's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up without me having to. What did this tell you about the Colorado team? Is it that
they've got grit and determination?
Yeah.
Yeah, that they. I'd say they might be a little too young to kind of capitalize on going very far. They kind of show that they have resilience. So, especially Johnson getting back to save the game from being over at that point, which was a crazy play.
Now, would you call that grit and determination, or would you say, okay, well, maybe
Muscle.
these... Well, no, okay, I'm just talking about the game as a whole right now. Would you say Colorado's vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, no, but like, there's more teams... Like, normally with a 1-8 matchup, your team is not... You're not as vulnerable to lose. I mean, it's not a good example when you get Boston, Detroit, because Detroit shouldn't be in that situation if they were healthy all year. But Minnesota, they have a hell of a lot of experience on their team against the Colorado team who's almost could be seen as, hey, we're happy we're back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, especially after the way Colorado finished last year.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess what I'm getting at is, does it change your opinion of how this series is going to go with the way, or is it just kind of like a one game and maybe this woke up Colorado? They took the punch and they took the punch and they fought and they punched back.
I still have Colorado winning this series.
Okay.
So I would say that I look at it more as, Minnesota, came out of the gates and, Colorado, kind of fought back and won the game as opposed to them being particularly vulnerable. I still think they have a good team, and that they'll win this matchup. When it comes to the next round, I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a bit of a different story. When you get to some of the better teams that still have that playoff experience, but are top to bottom a better team, like Chicago.
Yeah.
That I think is going to be a bit of a different story. But I think against Minnesota, they'll be fun. I think they'll still progress. Particularly if Danny Heatley continues to not play, because he's an all-star. Hashtag 1507.
Oh my God, we're bringing that back again. Okay, Sean, I think you were gonna say something before Kieran had to bring up that.
Yeah. No, just sticking with what I thought from the beginning. Colorado's probably gonna win this series. There's nothing they have to fear.
Okay, so what would be the most surprising outcome you've seen so far in the? I know we're only except for the Boston series, each series has only played one game. We're getting into game 2s tonight. What would you rank as the most surprising part of the playoffs so far?
So far, one game in, nothing much really. Triple overtime in the first game of the St. Louis-Chicago series. Didn't think that was going to happen. That's really about it. There's been no upsets like game 1 going into it.
And like the only lower seed to win right now is Montreal, and that was kind of like a toss-up as it was.
Yeah.
With Montreal Tampa. One of the things that stuck out to me was Dallas. They did lose. They were down 4-0 pretty quickly in that game. It was almost as like, oh, we're here, and they're looking around, and then, oh wait, this first period's over and we're down 3-0. Coming back to make it a 4-3 game, while it's not. You're down 1-0 in the series. There's got to be something in the back of their heads now, saying, "Okay, we can come back. We can hang with this Anaheim team." Or am I just looking too much into a 3 meaningless goals starting in the middle of the second period?
Think you're looking too far into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good conversation there. So Boston, Detroit, that's the only series that hasn't, well, as of now it's just about to start, but hasn't actually had a game played yet. We had Chris do his NHL playoff predictions, and he has Detroit winning, and Detroit going pretty far actually. I think he has them in the Cup final.
Wow. Bold prediction.
Or is Chris to back up his choice here?
I don't know. Probably drinking.
So actually doing something other than podcasting at this moment?
Exactly. And the thing is, I don't necessarily disagree with that prediction because I think Detroit is a much better team than where they are in the standings right now.
Yeah. Injuries killed them all year.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. I still think that Boston, though, is just, very, very, very strong.
No, I agree with you. And if my personal opinion on the series is I have two champions in the no matter what, you're gonna have two champions. But in the West, it's going to be the winner of the St. Louis Chicago series. I think is going to be representing the West, and I think it could be the winner of Boston Detroit who could represent the East, because Detroit is finally getting everybody back. Howard's playing better, and you can't count out the playoff experience that Detroit has, especially with Mike Babcock behind the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way he gets the most out of these guys that have come up from the defending Calder Cup champions in Grand Rapids, these guys already have playoff experience as it is. Granted, not Stanley Cup, but Calder Cup's getting a little bit more notoriety now that every game's on TV. Playoff experience is playoff experience. Mm-hmm. So, so in hindsight, is it actually that crazy that maybe if Detroit can upend Boston, can go on a bit of a run?
Yeah, I mean,
Boston? Oh yeah.
Yeah, if they get through Boston, I mean, if they get through Boston, then they're going to play either Tampa Bay or Montreal.
Exactly, yeah.
Who I think are two beatable teams.
Yep, yep.
So yeah, certainly. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
And the thing about Tampa Bay is they had a golden opportunity in Game 1 when they scored 4 goals on Carey Price.
Yeah.
And losing in overtime in that game, you're probably not going to get 4 by Carey Price in another game.
No.
Yeah.
So I think they wasted a golden opportunity there. New York, Philly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on because I really don't care about.
It's surprisingly not a marquee matchup compared to the other matchups that are going on right now.
And you think it would because it's division rivalry and whatnot.
Two big cities, yeah.
I'm just not feeling anything with it. I'm actually more excited for this Pittsburgh-Columbus series, especially from what Columbus showed in Game 1
There's a potential upset there.
I agree with that.
It was their first ever playoff lead when they scored first, as they were swept in 4 straight games against Detroit when they got in the playoffs a couple of years ago with Rick Nash and that crew before he got traded. So are we looking at another Pittsburgh Islanders series from last year where it's going to be Pittsburgh is going to have some bad games and the young unproven team is going to take advantage and push Pittsburgh to the brink? Or push Pittsburgh to at least in danger of losing.
I could see that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely could see it.
Pittsburgh usually comes out of the gate slow, and if they get caught with their pants down, they can get knocked out.
All right, now what could also be the best series of the entire first round is out west with San Jose and Los Angeles. Now, San Jose won the first game 6-3. They jumped out to a really big lead, and LA scored 3 in the third to kind of at least make it a bit closer. Is this series going to be... Are we going to see a new San Jose team? And by that I mean a team that is going to do well in the playoffs, or will the typical San Jose playoff collapse come again?
I've got LA coming back and winning this series.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my money's on San Jose... being San Jose in that aspect. So,
and my money's on a complete and total rebuild in the offseason for San Jose.
Oh, okay. So if they're done, you think if they lose early in the playoffs,
they have to.
Do you think they have to rebuild?
They have to. How many years has it been? At least 4 years.
Well, as long as pretty much since the lockout when they got Thornton from the first lockout since they got Thornton from Boston.
Yeah, that's a long time for this to keep going, one and done. Eventually, something's got to change there. Kind of like Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. Now, as Canadians, this will be the last topic before we go. Because there's only one Canadian team in the playoffs, or in my opinion, there are 0 Canadian teams in the playoffs. The World Championship starts in May.
Yep.
And most of the Team Canada has been already named and everything, but like every year, they can pretty much pick players off of teams that get knocked out in the first round. if you had to choose one Canadian player from any of the 16 teams to get knocked out, and not only that you'd like to see there, but would actually potentially and would be likely to go overseas to play in this tournament, who would you like to see get knocked out to go overseas and play?
Oof.
Loaded question
right there.
What's that?
That's a big question right there.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeez Louise.
Because in my opinion, it's Stamkos.
Oh, true, yeah.
No, because my opinion is that, honestly, I don't think, even if Tampa wins and gets by Montreal, they're not going to go very far anyways.
Wait, but with that being said, do you think Tampa Bay or Stamkos will risk going back after just getting over that injury?
Stamkos was so determined to go to the Olympics that I think there's a little bit of this little tickle, I guess, or this itch to play international hockey and to show what he can do on the international stage, that I think he goes.
I don't see it. I don't think Tampa Bay want him to go.
Well,
I would think they want him to rehab.
He's already rehabbed. He's back. He's at 100%.
Like fully get better for the next season, so nothing happens. I don't think he'll be over there.
If they ask him to go, which I believe they will, if they get knocked out, I don't see him saying no. I see him saying, "I'm going to go over because I missed the Olympics."
It's possible. I just don't think they will. I don't think Tampa Bay will want him to go.
Oh yeah, Tampa Bay wouldn't want him to go, but it's the off season.
Sure. I don't know. There's not really anyone, like all the big players. Maybe Jamie Benn from Dallas.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Get him some more international, or maybe a Tyler Seguin to get him international experience.
Oh, true, yeah.
Because there's gonna be some players like Joe Thornton's not gonna be around next Olympics if the NHL players go. So they're gonna need some players to step up. And I put the caveat in there about who would actually go, because guys like Crosby, no matter what, aren't going to go.
Yeah, that's why I said Ben. I think Ben's still young enough, and he's not as known. He was kind of like that fourth liner on Team Canada's Olympic team. Mm-hmm. So I think he'll want to go. And there were three, as a Leaf fan, I know about this. There are 3 Leafs going over. We've got Nazem Kadri, Morgan Rielly, who had a fantastic season, and for some reason James Reimer. So let's hope he's the backup or the third. Hey, you never know. Maybe get some confidence back there.
One can only hope, and hopefully it will increase his trade value.
I was just about to say for the team that he's going to play for next year.
Exactly, yeah. So now we'll jump over to the NBA playoffs, and because we are Canadian-based, it's the first time since, 2006, I think it was?
That ballpark.
That the Toronto Raptors made the playoffs. And the similarities between the last 2 times are actually ridiculous. Both times they were number 3 seed. Both times they won the Atlantic Division. And both times they came up against a Nets franchise with 3 stars on the team. Where the previous time it was Kidd, Jefferson, and Vince Carter. And this time it's Deron Williams, KG, and Paul Pierce. Or even Joe Johnson. Or even Joe Johnson if you want to keep it as guard and small forward, yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Very, very similar, especially because it's the Nets franchise where it's kind of crazy. So Toronto has launched a huge We the North campaign, which the videos are very good to get Canadians motivated for the playoffs. But some people who aren't motivated about Toronto's chances are the American media. Sean and I were talking about this earlier.
Oh, God.
I think it was Frank Azzola. I'm pretty sure he's from the New York Post.
He is.
Or the New York Post, yeah. Who, when asked on Around the Horn, what about the Toronto Raptors, he pretty much said, they're only a hockey city and they don't care. And because they're a hockey city, they won't win.
Yeah. Which says all the people down at Maple Leaf Square tomorrow are being going absolutely crazy.
Yes.
To tell them it's just a hockey town.
So because of this, I think Toronto's going to have this edge to them where it's the nobody believes in us edge.
Chip on their shoulder.
Chip on their shoulder, yes. And if they can get game 1, I think they can. I think they win the series. If they get game 1, because then it'll be a punch in the face to New York, who whether they want to admit it or not, they tanked to get to play Toronto.
You think so?
I do. And so, I know it's hard to judge based on records, and going to the last day of the season, there's so much left up for debate. But if you look at the last day of the schedule, Toronto's playing New York, a team they should be, and the Nets don't play anybody. They have Durant on the bench, they have KG on the bench, they have Pierce on the bench, they have Johnson on the bench, and they have some Serbian guy that Tim McAuliffe loves a lot on the bench as well. So, is it a slap in the face to the Raptors, or is it just the Nets, or is it the Nets resting, do you think?
Probably just the Nets resting.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I would be surprised. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I would be surprised to see a team purposely tank just to get a different matchup in the playoffs. I mean, I think to be honest with you, you have to have, most teams now are going to have a good amount of respect and preparation for any of their opponents. So I mean, I'd like to think it was just the Nets resting players and what have you.
Sean?
Yeah, I don't think they'd be tanking for like a different opponent, especially if it came out to like the last game of the year. They're probably just resting the players up. They knew where they're going to play. There's no point in putting them out there possibly because they're an older team too. Kind of like how San Antonio takes Duncan and Parker and those guys and put them on the bench for a game just to give them an extra time off. Why, put them out there, potentially get hurt, tire them out, when you know you're going to go up against a young, athletic, hungry team who's, they're going to come out fast.
But they didn't know that. If they win that game, they play Chicago.
True, but even then, Chicago's still a younger team that's going to come at them. So either way.
But Chicago knocked them out, pretty much the exact same team from Chicago. Took them to 7 games and knocked them out last year. Are you saying the Nets, there's no chance the Nets are thinking about that, saying we don't want any part of Chicago in the first round?
No. It's a veteran team. They can handle that. I don't see them tanking just so they can avoid Chicago, where Toronto could be potentially more dangerous for them. Going to Chicago or Toronto is not going to help them. They're not going to be the home team. Oh, no,
but if you're an experienced playoff team, would you want to play a team in Chicago who has playoff experience in the last few years and knocked you out last year, or do you want to play a team that hasn't had any has nobody pretty much on the roster who has playoff experience?
You make a point, but I don't think they'd probably purposely lose for that to happen. My opinion on it, of course.
All right. As we look at the Eastern Conference playoffs, really the first round, other than that Toronto-Brooklyn matchup, there's probably not really too many deep series. I think Miami's going to come out firing because they're going to want to get Dwayne Wade some rest in between the series.
Yeah, I think that might be a sweep there.
And then Chicago-Washington, I think Chicago handles Washington pretty well. And Indiana will have some troubles against Atlanta just because Indiana's playing so they're struggling, but I think they're still going to get past the Hawks because Atlanta pretty much tried to get out of the playoffs the last few weeks. I think the real stories for playoffs are going to come out of the Western Conference because those are going to be the best series. And in my opinion, the best series that I have no rooting interest in is going to be the Clippers and Golden State.
Sorry.
As we look at the Western Conference matchup...
Did you say you're not interested in that matchup?
No, that's the one I'm most interested in.
Oh, they say you weren't interested.
Oh, sorry, no. Most interested in. Okay. So the other matchups are the Spurs and the Mavericks, Houston and Portland, and then we got OKC and the Grizzlies.
Well, why don't we just go through all the matchups and say who we think is going to win to the finals?
Just to get to the next round or to the finals?
The complete finals.
Okay. Spurs over Dallas, Houston over Portland, Clippers in 7 over Golden State, in which is going to be a fantastic series.
I agree.
OKC Memphis. I've got
OKC.
I think I'm going to have Houston over the Spurs, and I think I'll have OKC over the Clippers, and then OKC coming out of the West.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I disagree with that.
Okay, what do you disagree with?
I think Memphis might upset OKC.
Yeah, and the thing is, none of it sounds crazy because the Western Conference from 1 to 8 is so tight.
Yeah.
And with Memphis, if they had Marc Gasol for most of the year, they're probably a higher seed.
Yeah.
So like it's not crazy that Memphis could win, but in my opinion, specifically with basketball, you can pretty much if you're doubting in a series, you pick the team with the best player, and
Durant,
in the Western Conference, the best player is Durant, and probably the NBA this season is Durant.
I can agree, but I have San Antonio and Houston.
Okay.
I have Clippers, Memphis. I have Clippers, San Antonio, and San Antonio going to the finals.
I'm not even sold 100% on the Clippers beating Golden State.
Yeah, either am I. But I'm more likely.
I'm not sold on San Antonio.
Well, they sweep Dallas the last 9 games, so I think San Antonio is just one of those teams that flies on the radar, gets their job done, and out and makes the finals every year or close to.
I think Dallas is happy they lost the game to Memphis, and I think Dallas has a better. Personally, one of my friends who's a very big supporter of the Dallas Mavericks disagrees with me in this. I think they have a much better chance of beating the Spurs than they would have had OKC. Just with the people on that roster, with the age of the Dallas Mavericks, it fits more in line with the Spurs game where they can play a slower style game with the Spurs, where OKC would probably push the court a bit. And when you get players like Vince Carter, who's like 36, and Sean Marion, who's just as old, it's going to be a very tough series, especially if they want to go deep. Because in order to beat a team like OKC, if you're Dallas, you're going to think you're going 7.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Okay. But yeah, I guess, as I said, my opinion, Clippers Golden State's going to be the most interesting series because there's going to be the game where Chris Paul goes off. There's going to be a game where Steph Curry goes off. So there's one each. Blake Griffin's going to dominate one game, and then probably you're looking at Klay Thompson or Harrison Barnes, who had magic in the playoffs last year for Golden State to take a game as well. Mm-hmm. So right there, you're already 2-2. So I think that's going to be the best series of the opening round.
And if we're lucky, DeAndre Jordan might actually make a free throw.
Probably not.
If DeAndre Jordan kills somebody again, like he did Brandon Knight a year ago, I mean, it wasn't in the playoffs, but if he can do it in the playoffs, I think that would be, it'd be a legendary playoff move.
They'll get Big Mo on their side.
Exactly, Big Mo. So as we jump to the Eastern Conference again, I'm going Indy over Atlanta, Chicago over Washington, Miami over Charlotte, and I still can't pick between Toronto or Brooklyn.
Toronto. Has to be.
Brad, I can see you want to pick Brooklyn.
No, I don't want to pick Brooklyn. That's the thing, is I hate Brooklyn. I just think I think Brooklyn has a very good shot of winning. I'm going Toronto. I think that Lowry's going to be able to carry the team like he has been pretty much the entire season ever since Rudy Gay was traded. And it's been a completely different team since the Rudy Gay trade. So while I have Toronto winning, they're going to lose to Miami. And I have Chicago beating Indiana. I don't trust Indiana anymore.
I don't disagree with that. I did have Indy beating Chicago, but I could definitely see Chicago winning. It'll be a close series for sure.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, then, pretty much the way you just said it. Indy, Chicago, Toronto, Miami, Indy. I think it's gonna be San Antonio, Miami.
I think it's OKC, Miami, and in my humble opinion or my humble preference, I really want Durant to win a title.
Yeah, I would really like to see OKC win.
And not even just for Durant to win a title, but if OKC can win a title over Miami, that's just going to propel the league so much farther than Miami getting a three-peat. Because if you get OKC winning, getting a title, you're looking at maybe potentially a new Boston, Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
With two rivals from the east side who don't like each other, and two of the best players on the planet consistently going after each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm hoping for when it comes to OKC and Miami, something like that. And it'll be the second time in 3 years that they've met in the final. Yeah, second time in 3 years.
Yeah.
So I guess that wraps up our playoff talk. We'll have more to talk about once we actually see some of these NBA games. It'll be very interesting to see the turnout at Maple Leaf Square, as the Raptors are going to be doing the what the Leafs did last year. And what's interesting about it is because it's going to be at 12:30. The game's at 12:30 start in the afternoon. So that will be an interesting to see how many fans go out for that.
You said 12:30 start?
It's the first game of the playoffs, Saturday afternoon, 12:30.
What a random time.
No, the NBA always does this, and it seems to be a game they want to bury. So, looks like the NBA is going to try and bury this Toronto-Brooklyn series. We'll jump into our high fives and face palms now. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, Sean actually thought of stuff.
Yeah, I thought of something. So my face palm for the week goes to Mark Emmert, the NCAA's president. Him going on Mike and Mike and getting pretty much absolutely blown up on Twitter because of the radio station wanting people to chime in with Ask Emmert hashtag, and just absolutely just ripping it from all the terrible decisions the NCAA has made over the last ever.
Over the last ever.
I can't even think of a time where they're making good decisions. So, it's been a while. So, I don't get why the NCAA still exists in this current form it's in. It really needs to kind of go involved, in my opinion. And my high five for the week actually goes to almost someone on that topic, to Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, for wanting to put the age cap for NCAA players in basketball up to 20 from 19. So instead of getting all these one-and-dones, you at least get players that are going 2 years in college and then coming out when they're a little more prepared. Makes the NCAA games more exciting. The March Madness tournament's getting a lot more exciting when you have those 2-year players. So, like Parker and Wiggins would stay that second year, it'd be an even better, deeper tournament every year. So that's my high five for the week.
Kieran, do you want to go next?
Sure. So my high five of the week goes to Chad Ochocinco Johnson for actually making good on his I guess, idea to sign with the Alouettes. So he's signed.
And sank.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's actually done that, and that's going to be a thing. So it'll be interesting to see.
Damon Hamilton.
Exactly. So yeah, my face palm, which is also sort of half of a high five as well, goes to Joel Quenneville for his quote unquote inappropriate conduct in the St. Louis Chicago game the other day. He felt very itchy after the lack of delay of game call, and yeah, the refs did not take too kindly to that apparently, and neither did the league, so he got fined. Thought it was pretty funny though.
So he did get fined?
Yeah, $25,000.
Worth it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, that's what I got.
I'll jump in now. I'll start with a fail that's just kind of a general fail, is the weather right now in Saskatchewan. We have snow on the ground.
We had snow, like a couple days ago.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
Tuesday. That's
the worst. The worst was I had a tea time for this morning, and then it snowed on Thursday and Friday, so I didn't get to play. So that's why I'm angry about that.
Yeah. Understandable.
My face palm is going to the Toronto Blue Jays last night, the second game of their doubleheader. In one inning, this was kind of more like a Dickey outing last year, but in one inning last night, 8 walks, 3 wild pitches. I think he finished the game with 12 total walks. But really, if you give up 8 walks in an inning, you should just be ashamed of yourself and demote yourself to AAA. Any pitcher involved in that, demote yourself to AAA. And actually, you know what? The Blue Jays don't have any better option, so
they could always call up Ricky Romero.
No, they
can't. Then we could have 12 walks in an inning.
Yeah.
My high five is going to ESPN for. I know I'm.
This is rare right here.
I'm one of their biggest marks for 30 for 30s, and they put out 2 spectacular ones over the last actually 2 days or 3 days now that we're on Friday. Wednesday they premiered their specifically they're starting this new series for soccer since they're heading up to the World Cup, and I believe they have World Cup coverage. The ESPN 30 for 30 soccer stories, and it was on the Hillsborough disaster. I believe it was 1996 if I remember correctly. Kieran, you can probably confirm that better than I can.
I actually don't remember. 1989.
Was it 89?
89.
Okay, then I was way off.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that makes sense why they ran into the 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was like 96 doesn't sound right, but
I was thinking of something else in 96. I don't remember what it was. Anyways, they did a fantastic job with that one, and then I don't know how I had 96 in my mind. Anyways, they did a fantastic job with that, and then the Isaiah Thomas Bad Boys Pistons era was fantastic, and I never really liked the Bad Boys era Pistons, but at least this 30 for 30 gave me some respect for them, essentially. So good job, just fascinating stuff there, and I've also been watching the 30 for 30 collection. I have just watched the one on the U, threw up the U. It was fantastic. It's not called throw up the U. I just threw up the U in my house.
It's a classic one.
It's a very good one. So that wraps it up for today. Kieran already mentioned that he's going to be working on some World Cup preview stuff, so that'll be nice to have some writers other than myself and Sean up there.
Yep, keep a lookout for that. Should be fun.
Sean's mock draft 2.0 hopefully will be before the draft. Starting it tomorrow.
New and improved.
New and improved. Do you have how many changes do you have? You don't have to give names or anything. How many people do you think are going to change?
Off the top of my head, there'll probably be a bunch of changes just because of trickle-down effect.
Interesting. Okay. So with that being said, we'll wrap it up. Kieran, as always, has his Twitter account locked up in a safe. Sean is at Sean_McD2. I'm at SmithBR10. We are at Sport by Schmucks. Visit our blog at sportsbyschmucks.blogspot.ca. Subscribe to us on YouTube and like the video. Leave us some comments in the video below because we want some ideas to talk about. Specifically, I don't want to say fan, but I want to say listener-generated ideas. So please leave comments on Twitter or on our YouTube channel, and we'll probably shout you out by name if you do probably you'd be the first. So with that being said, thank you for listening and enjoy probably the busiest, well not the busiest, probably the best time of summer sports right now with the first round of the playoffs of the NHL and NBA starting. So take care and enjoy the game.